Halftime, thanks to Volkswagen. Chelsea with 3 losses in their last 4 games, their worst stretch of the season, but they have responded to the challenge, at least so far today. 1-0 home team at the break. Robbie Mustoe, Danny Higginbotham, Ahmed Fareed in studio. Glad you could join us today. 2 teams level on points with different strategies coming to this game. Both played a couple days ago, and that caused Chelsea to make some changes. Aston Villa did not, Robbie, but they came out gunning.
I thought they started really well, and this is where I love to see Jack Grealish inside the box in that area. Does this so many times and does it so well. This time it's Mendy gets a good look at this. It's coming from distance. It's not far enough into the corner. That's a good height for Mendy as well. Makes a comfortable save.
Then Chelsea, though, 12th minute gets their chance.
They did. They didn't do a lot, really, in the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, but they do get a little bit of an opportunity right here, and Pulisic, who's going to get a couple of chances there, just can't get his foot around the ball. This is a little harder for him as well. The crosses started to come in. Giroud always a threat for those, and again, Christian Pulisic there just can't. You know, it's difficult over his shoulder to try and get that down and on target from there, and he can't manage to do it. It's a tough one.
Pulisic and Giroud, though, getting together on that chance, getting together on the goal.
Yeah, they were in Villa's game plan up until this point was going really well. You know, but Chilwell got some space down the left-hand side, and Giroud a wonderful header. But this was the game plan of Villa. You can see now Chilwell is being trapped by Traore, and just look at how many Villa players are through the middle. They're saying to Chelsea, you can go inside, we want you to go inside. That way you're stopping crosses from coming in because there's no space. But the one time Traore switches off and is supposed to be tracking Chilwell, well, there's the end result. And Dean Smith will be really disappointed because I guarantee he will have spoke on numerous occasions about trying to stop crosses and the game plan that they had, and they got caught out.
So those are the first half highlights, thanks to Geico. Really impressive first half, would you say, for Chelsea?
No.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
I wouldn't. I think we're looking for a big reaction. I'm looking for them to control possession of the ball. I thought it was 30 minutes before they started to play a little bit. We saw a couple of opportunities early on. Of course, listen, I'm joking a little bit there. It's good to go ahead and be that team to be in front of the game. But again, I thought Villa started better. I thought they ended better. I think given what we've seen from Aston Villa, they're absolutely still in this game. It's just whether some of these players will start to tire. They played 2 games 2 days ago. There's not a ton of attacking options on the bench. Only Keenan Davis really to come on and help in that regard. But listen, Chelsea will be happy, of course. I just, you know, I think they could have done better than that.
What do you think?
I'm interested to see game management now, something that Frank Lampard keeps mentioning, in particular the Wolves game away where they were winning 1-0, then it went 1-1, and then ended up losing in the last minute. It's what it's all going to be about this second half.
So what do you want to see him do?
I want to see Chelsea being a threat going forward still, but being a little bit more pragmatic at times because they left themselves wide open against Wolves, and that's where they got. Can they see this game out 1-0? Can they get a second goal, or do they allow Villa back into this? It's a huge 45 for Frank Lampard and Chelsea.
After Frank Lampard called out a lot of the players after last game, it would have been a bad sign if they didn't respond at all in this game. So far, they at least have the 1-goal lead if they haven't totally impressed. Rob, with us here today, so a lot to talk about. Let's start with what we just saw here, Robbie. Chelsea had to, Frank Lampard said before the game, we got to change this roster. We got to get new guys in there because we're playing 2 times in 48 hours. Aston Villa did not do that. Do you think that Chelsea was fresher than Aston Villa, or no?
I think it's pretty obvious to anybody who watched that game. There was no difference in terms of how the energy levels looked on both teams. Tons of credit to Aston Villa. Disappointing if you're a Chelsea fan, watching that with the changes, with the results, with expecting a reaction after the manager's comments after the last game, but they look flat, uninspired. They look like they're not enjoying their football. You look at Aston Villa, the way that they play, they can't wait to get on the ball. They look like they're enjoying it. And I know the results have been better for them, but for Chelsea, it looks like it's a struggle. It looks like it's a struggle right now, and that's not a good look for Frank Lampard. These results, those players out there that don't really look like they're playing with any desperation until the last 2 minutes of the match for me.
I think one of the things is when you talk about tiredness, and I'm sure Robbie can relate to this as well, there's physical tiredness and there's mental tiredness within sport. And mental tiredness is far more difficult to deal with than physical tiredness. Aston Villa are a team doing really well away from home, having a great season. They look fresh. They look able to continue and keep going, whereas Chelsea, I think there's a mental tiredness there. I think there's a lot of pressure on them. I think the fact that they've scored goals first and then conceded and not got anything from the game or just got a draw, I think that's really affected them.
You think Aston Villa has been maybe the most impressive team this year? Just in what they've done in comparison to last year?
Yes, 100%. I think the transfer dealings and the fact that they nearly went down last season, I think they've been absolutely magnificent, and Dean Smith deserves a lot of credit.
All right, more on this match in just a second, hopefully hearing from Frank Lampard a little bit later on. Now to that story about that Everton versus Manchester City match that was postponed due to a COVID-19 outbreak within the club. Got a statement here from Manchester City. It says, quote, after the latest round of COVID-19 testing, the club returned a number of positive cases in addition to the 4 already reported on Christmas Day. With the security of the bubble compromised, there posed a risk that the virus could spread further amongst the squad, the staff, and potentially beyond. Based on strong medical advice, the Premier League, in consultation with both clubs, have decided to postpone the fixture. All positive cases involving players and staff will observe a period of self-isolation in accordance with Premier League and UK government protocol on quarantine. That is the Manchester City statement in part. The Premier League had this to say: the rise in positive tests has created uncertainty, and the Premier League board received medical advice that the match should be postponed. The board agreed to rearrange the game as a precaution, and further testing will now take place tomorrow. The Premier League continues to have full confidence in its protocols and rules and the way in which all clubs are implementing them. The league wishes those with COVID-19 a safe and speedy recovery and will rearrange the postponed fixture against Everton in due course. So that is the statement, at least in part, from the Premier League. This is a tweet that came from Robbie Mustoe. I'll start with you. How worried are you that this could be the start of a bigger problem here in the Premier League?
Naturally very worried. That's 2 football clubs now. They've had to close down their training grounds, Newcastle United and now Manchester City. Listen, we know that the virus is uncontrolled right now in the UK, and particularly in England, which has given us a problem. I really like what the comments the manager said there. Roy Hodgson talking about the protocols of the Premier League have been brilliant. Can clubs and players do more? And I did read a report, I think it was this press conference, Nuno Espirito Santo, the Wolves manager, talking about banning his players from going to the grocery store to get, supermarket to get to shopping. Can the clubs do more? I know you're never going to get them all in the hotel for the remainder of the season to put them in their own little bubble, but is there more the clubs can do, I wonder, just to protect their players even more?
I think it's very difficult. As Robbie's quite rightly said, you listen to 2 managers there, they speak about how well the Premier League has done, how their attention to detail, what they've tried to do. But what we also have to remember is that these players are human beings. They go home to families. They have children that are probably at school. You know, when I was in the UK, like I say, I've only moved over 2 months ago. My children were in school from September until the day we left to come here. So, it's very, very difficult to stop it all. You can do everything and you can put everything in place at football clubs, but it's when players leave the clubs. They still have families, they still have lives, and that's what makes it ultra difficult.
Getting the fixtures in is what you've got to worry about. That's 2 games now that Man City have got to make up. They're in the Champions League, so those midweeks won't be available. More clubs, more postponements, a shortened season. That could be a problem for the Premier League.
Manchester City has Chelsea coming up this weekend. You wonder if perhaps the Premier League will think about having teams play without a significant number of their players that we've seen in some other sports. So that, of course, some of the big news today, that game between...